Women in the arts and in entertainment. I'm joined by a powerful, powerful panel today. Movers and shakers, in the entertainment industry. There is different, actors and ways in which people can be in the arts. And today I'm joined by a team of brilliant four ladies across, at different ages and who have done phenomenal things in their own respects as individuals. And today we are going to be talking and having a chat about what it's like to be a lady in the entertainment industry, to be an artist. What are the kind of challenges? What are things that you meet? What kind of support do you need? What kind of support are ladies giving to each other, if they are giving each other support? And if not so, what can we do better? And what would they advise to those young ones who are up and coming, would love to be in the arts as well? So we are joined today. We have with us, we've got Nadine joining us. We've got Auntie Mariana joining us, a veteran in the arts. And we've got our dear Mary also joining us.
Hi.
Wow, this is great. This is great. This is exciting. Let's start with you, Mary, right away. Just give us a brief introduction of yourself. What exactly do you do, in the arts as an artist?
Okay, yes, my name is Mary Saranga, and I just want to start off by saying I am very honored to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and good evening to everyone who's listening and watching. So currently, I am a music compiler at BFM, and I also host a radio show from 12 until 3 on the same station as well. And I have a music degree. I'm also not born, rather, but I'm bred in PE, but I was born in East Africa. And I just have a passion for music. It's something that I've always wanted to do. And I'm just very honored, and I feel very blessed that I can wake up every morning and do music. And it's something that I totally love. So that's me in a nutshell.
Wow, great stuff. And that's quite a CV. I like the way you are so modest about it and put it in a simple way. I'm a music curator, I'm like, oh, okay. Okay. Auntie
Yeah.
Mariana?
Yes, hello everybody. So good to be here. Thanks to Paul, also from BFM Radio. I am there as well. I'm probably the smallest fry there because I am a volunteer presenter in the arts and entertainment. I actually interview artists. I know most of them, all of them here in PE, because I've been in musicals, in shows, in some productions, dramas, Afrikaans and English. And so I have been thinking, over my life that, yes, it's nice to let it know, let it be known. And that's why a radio program is the ideal platform to get it out there on every arena, not only the performing arts, but also the creative arts and every other art, of course, music, entertainment, everything. And I've been there many years.
Many years. I hear so many is coming, and we would want to hear your stories. The golden stories. Of all your travels and the things that you have done. In the short phone calls I've had with you, we have had. You have told me stories that that have happened across the world, but we'll get to that. Nadine.
So I'm qualified in public relations and I'm a brand strategist. I own my own consulting business coming from heavy corporate for about 13 years. I'm a radio presenter at BFM as well. I do the 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then also Stanford, I want to thank you for this opportunity. I don't take it lightly. I thank you for what you're doing in the realm of arts and music. It's very appreciated. I'm currently also a student. I'm finishing off my integrated project management at the business school at NMU. Um, so yeah, that's about it in a nutshell.
Oh, this is great. I actually feel I feel like I'm kind of lost because I can't myself fit myself in all these things that I'm hearing,
Feminine
and at the same
energy.
time, yeah, and the energy, but and at the same time, I feel that I've got radio personalities that know maybe partly what I'm doing, much better than I do. But let's see how this goes. But let's talk about, so just give us an idea. What is it like really to be called an artist in general? Because from time to time we see, from the media, that's where we see the pictures of, artists or celebrities. And actually, artists and celebrities, the same thing. Maybe that's another point we'll come to. But what is it like to be an artist and at the same time to be a female? Nadine, how do you take that? What would you say?
So first of all, what it's so overlapping because people contaminate your aura that you are a radio presenter, not knowing that it's literally just 3 hours of your day. It's literally just 3 hours of your day, you know. So on top of that, I'm a student. I do visual arts as well as in like visual announcements for some churches. Um, I do a bit of acting as well. I run a brand strategy company, so I consult people about branding. You know, so when people are like, "Oh, Nadine's a radio presenter," I'm like, "No, I've literally just given 3 hours. Like, I literally have a schedule before those 3 hours, and it's not just speaking on air. You have to segment your art. You have to prepare your shows. Like on Sundays, I prepare the interviews, I send the questions. You have to hustle to get artists for interviews. Um, so the artistic nature is you putting in the work for the 3 hours, long before you even get into studio. You know, and going from Monday to Friday, just excelling in your craft every time. Sometimes it gets boring, sometimes it gets monotonous, but that's your craft, you know, that's your skill. And you have to enhance it every day by making mistakes, by practicing, by learning. So, yeah.
And Mary, are you in the same line of approach and thinking to this, like, the categorization that Nadine makes?
Yeah, I do agree with her that artist is a broad term, obviously, because there's so much that comes with being an artist as well. But I can speak from being an African, like with having African parents, that I'm sure a lot of us can relate, that if you tell your parents you want to be an artist, then they think you're going to be poor for the rest of your life because it's something that's not monetary or you can't monetize it. So I was lucky enough to have parents who, when I said I want to be an artist, I want to be a singer, or I want to be a performer or go into the entertainment business, they were very supportive. And these are parents who are in more of not a professional, but like a medical. They were more medical and more um, I would say more book centered than artistically centered, and they were very supportive of that. So for me, being an artist can be challenging because people assume that you don't take life seriously, but that's from my personal experience. And so it
But
becomes
do
a bit
artists but do
difficult.
artists take life seriously? Do artists take life seriously?
That's actually a very good point. I think maybe we're not meant to take life seriously, and that's how all the beautiful creations come out. Is because we're not so militant in our thoughts. You know what I mean? So I think yeah, that's a good point. Definitely.
um, Auntie Mariana, do artists take their life not life seriously in general? Because I feel like artists at times, they just generally barrier breakers, and coming up with whatever you say shouldn't be done, we will do it, and that shows that we are artists. And your general outline of what it means to you to be an artist.
Personally, I think artists take life very seriously. And today, in today's times, more so
Yeah.
than I'd say 50 years ago, when art, one of the arts that you, whatever you do, except from maybe sculpting and painting, could be a full-time job then. But acting, music, it was very much a side job, in the old days, shall I put it that way? And it you could multitask. So you had different boxes for artists as well, because an actor could also be building the set and vice versa, or be directing. But now, of course, we do climb out of a box and perform. We climb out of the box and we build the set. We climb out of the box and we direct. Some people are very good and multi-talented. Others are just very, very excellent actors. It's all it's very relative. I think today performers and are entrepreneurs, and they have to make a living, although it's tough these days. So they're almost forced to also have a real job, almost. Because I know
Yeah.
when I was touring overseas with a drama group, and we were actually a Christian drama group, so we were on mission, and they were saying, "But what is your real job?" But we
Yeah.
were doing this 24 hours a day, so for
Hmm.
that year or two, when you're touring, this is your real job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So things have
Yeah.
changed, but on some levels, they haven't. They haven't, and I think
Yeah.
it's like that for all. It's cross-racial, you know, cross-cultural. It's it's
Yeah.
the same, and for
And
women, it's quite tough.
yeah, and that actually speaks onto an interesting point that you make there of the difference between way back, how it was kind of like a side thing, a hobby only, and now being about making money. Would you say, Mary, that now people do make a proper living from art? From art?
I think so. I think there's different avenues now. There's more different ways of you making money because of technology, and getting into the fourth industrial revolution as well. There's also more inclusivity as well. Because someone who looked like me back in the day, I'm sure when Auntie Marianne was touring, it would have been much harder for me to find work because of maybe my skin tone or the way I appear. But now they're more inclusive of someone who looks like me, or and even dare I say, someone who is of your age, Auntie Marianne. They're also inclusive of people who are of a more
Yes,
mature age. Whereas before it was, very, very narrow and very linear. So I think that because of that, people are able to eventually um, like monetize the arts and create their own, empower themselves through YouTube and streaming services and so on. So I definitely
Yeah.
think things have definitely improved, and we've come a long way for sure, especially for women as well.
Yeah. And
Definitely.
Nadine, you're agreeing with that. You can just jump in, yeah, when you want to get in there.
I do agree. I do agree that the avenues have not become as rigid anymore. And I think people have seen the need of creatives. Like we trading with our creativity as intellectual property, you know?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I worked at an agency, FCB, and when a client would ask you to an idea to help you actually implement the idea, you would need creatives to brainstorm the brief. And by brief, you mean like
Mm,
actually communicating what the client wants, all the way to creatives, to graphic designers, to theory writers, until you see the product in Woolies on the shelf or the posters, from the call to action to the messaging. How does the messaging align to the company's vision and mission? And you can't just buy that. You have to be skilled in how you articulate a message to the customer or the consumer.
Yeah.
You know, and you overlook this thing and you're like, oh, I just want this cup, this mug, you know, and then you go and you see Hug in a mug, you know, and you buy it for Hug in the mug because you feel attached to that sentiment when you're in bed and you're having this mug. But it took a whole creative team to get the graphics together, to get the color scheme together, to get the messaging direct, to get you to actually grab
Yeah.
the cup off the shelf, and that's your call to action. You know, so I think
and
the time,
and
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and I just wanted to engage because there's a comment from on YouTube saying, well, in African context, I think being a woman artist is usually associated with sleeping around and going against the norm. Is this something that you ladies have also met and dealt with?
Yes.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. I mean, we're
And
not taking
is
it
it
too
true?
seriously.
We
Yes,
are
go
all
ahead,
nodding.
Auntie Mariana.
Yes, we're all nodding because I think on every level, and no matter what culture group you belong to, there will always come in these directors or there's been big court cases lately of, guys who have overstepped the mark with actresses
Yeah.
or performers, and now they're picking the fruit because now they're coming out of the cupboard and they are actually naming and shaming, and they're making these court cases. So we do need men. We need you guys because, and why am I saying this? We need guys like you, Stanford. You facilitating this talk. My husband, he's a script writer. I know guys who are the most amazing directors, musicians, and so on, to actually be the directors. And we want to follow your orders, but we don't want to be your slave. We don't want to be your sex slave. No, we don't. And in the
So
end,
so
it
so
is.
so in that, are you saying
Yeah.
this because I think sorry to cut you there, Auntie Mariana, but I feel
Okay.
that this is a real issue, right? But I want to understand it more. Is it an issue in the context of men demanding this for you to get this position, for you to get this, we need you to give this, or it's a matter of women going and saying, I will give you this so that you can put me in that position? Which is which here?
I think for us women, we need to wake up and say, no, we are not here for you to sell our bodies to get into a show or to get somewhere or to do something. This is me. I have talent. The team needs to work together and the guys need to help us, but not by buying sex for like a position or a star role or a whatever. And that is what it is. This whole fight has now, and I'm so glad it has happened because 50 years ago, 40, 30, 20 years ago, even girls did not speak about it. They did not open their mouths. Female
Yeah.
performers were at the mercy of the, I don't even want to say the names of these guys. I've got it. I know who it is. I've got the name in my head. I'm not going to say it. But these are
Yeah.
these are worldwide, American big directors, and they're being sued now, and sports guys as well. For
So
girls who were already talented in doing that sport, and then they were being sexually abused. And I'm so
Abuse.
glad they're all coming out with it now, because it needs to be said, it needs to be known, and it needs to be go out there that us girls, even well, whether you're 74 like
Yeah.
me, or whether you're young like Nadine and Mary, that we are not there for
To
you.
be able,
We
yeah, to take that
we are
stand, and
talented.
exactly.
Yes, we are
And
Yeah.
talented.
to the younger ladies, tell me how is it going? Yes, Mary.
I don't know. I haven't personally experienced that type of behavior because I'm the type of person who, if I see that, I'm very straightforward. I'll be like,
She's
this is not that
feisty.
kind of party. Like, this is not gonna happen. Yeah, I'm like that. But I feel like women and men have a part to play in this thing. I do feel that like women do have a desperation to be noticed or to be seen or to be celebrated because obviously given the media has portrayed women in a way that you need to look a certain way and behave a certain way. So women feel like they need to be celebrated physically. So a lot of women will go maybe into acting or presenting and they will put themselves in those desperate situations because they're craving that, especially in today's day and age.
Yeah.
But at the same time, of course, men should be held accountable on their side for also not saying things like, this is not how we're going to go about this. And also men shouldn't be taking advantage of women in that way. Of course, that's definitely
Yeah.
not behavior that is condoned, but I do think that like we're having this conversation, a conversation needs to be had with men and women
Yes.
about
Yeah.
how we can
Yeah.
resolve. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And
Definitely, I
so
don't know about
Nadine,
Nadine.
yeah, Nadine, as you give your perspective on this,
Uh-huh.
I take us into the confidence of one day when you see a younger lady, younger than you, who's at high school, and they say they want to go into the arts based on this aspect of things and how things have gone. What advice would you say to them, and what just your experience about it?
So I actually had a personal experience because I lived in Johannesburg for a while, and
Okay.
I was an extra on Seven de Laan and Binnelanders, and someone asked me to be a vixen on a music video. And because of my internal governance and my value system, and just the values that I stand by in life as my foundation, my paradigm of thinking of how do I make decisions, that did not sit well with me. But the money was lucrative, the opportunity would have aced me to wherever, and the exposure would have been amazing. But just because I think in the way that when I have a kid one day, I do not want him to say that is my mom in that music video. That's a vixen. So
Yeah.
the
Okay.
temptation is there, the opportunities are there, and it's also from the woman's point of view. If you place yourself in that environment, you shouldn't be shocked by getting these offers. Mine
Yeah.
came because one of the artists saw me on TV, but that's different. But if you're in that environment, there's also this clicky
And
thing
you
of
carry
women.
yourself like that.
Exactly. So it's the aura that you carry yourself, you portray yourself in, whether that opportunity comes. And also how can I say, the comparing between the woman in the industry is there. Whether it's not spoken about,
Hmm.
whether it's
Yeah.
it's not verbalized, you can see. Like, for example, my hair, I've never had my hair blonde. It's always been black.
Mm.
That's a simple example. I'm using it personally because I have personal frame of reference. It might be a huge thing to someone else. You've known Nadine,
Yeah.
she's only black
Yeah.
hair. Oh no, what she
and
wears
and,
blonde.
and I think, and I actually think, part of that is I've always asked myself, maybe it's because of the way we have commodified the industries, that even if it's a lady doing her own musical video, you'll still find
Yeah.
men in that musical video properly, fully clothed, but the ladies looking in a
Mm.
different way. And others defend it as
Objectified.
it's art as well. Others say it's art as well in its own form,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
presenting that, and other people don't mind carrying the aura of that. And I've seen people that have also risen from nobodies, where they make the an opportunity to attend the Safas or something, some of these big awards, and they go there looking in a way that gets everyone talking, and that's how they kickstart their career in the industry.
Yeah.
But anyway, to put that aside, now can you just, how is the journey from just being an artist to being a professional in entertainer, changing the craft? How? Because most people seem to struggle there, where someone can be very good at what they do, but the transformation from just being, a performer or an artist, but now to really being a professional. How do you manage that transition? Maybe we can start with you, Mary, and then we can come to Nadine and to Mariana. How do you manage that?
How do you manage the transition? I think it should be automatic for anyone who wants to go into the arts to always have different avenues of income, diversifying your portfolio, because you would be a bit ignorant or naive to think that I'll just sing and then I'll just see what happens. There's a lot of people who are singing, dancing, acting, going into business. There's people who um they incorporate, like Auntie Marianne mentioned earlier, and they're also doing the arts. That's just the way a lot of people are working. You see Jay-Z, he's a rapper, but he also is a CEO and he owns different brands and he's diversifying. So I think that if you have that mentality in the beginning, then you start off maybe with one skill like singing, and you join a band, and then from there you expand by starting your own label, and then from there your band signs to that label, and then you become the label's manager, and then under there you go into the music business side of things. You can also venture out like that, and then from there you do like what Nadine's doing and become a brand strategist or online marketer. So you're busy singing, but you're also doing marketing online. That's the type of mentality you should already have before you go into the arts, that I'm not just going to focus on one thing. I'm going to make one thing a strength and then diversify from there. So that's how I've managed. And that's how I would encourage everybody else to do. So yeah, that's me. That's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
From
Auntie
I don't
my
know about
Mariana.
side,
everybody.
Yeah, oh, Nadine. Yeah, Nadine, you can go
from my
ahead.
side, I live with the quote: "A flexible person is never bent out of shape." That is literally the quote I live by.
Yeah, can we just, that's very deep. I love that.
Like, like a
Yeah.
flexible person, and by that I mean, like Mary said, I'm gonna echo what you said: diversify. Like for me,
Yeah.
I started in radio by just compiling the news for another radio presenter. He did his shows every Saturday at 6 o'clock, meaning we had to be in studio at 5. So I had to be ready at 4 o'clock, just compiling the news, not even reading, not even saying anything on air. He read the news, not even me. And then the one day he came and he said, "I need your opinion and you need to go on air." And that's how my voice got on air. But I started off in poetry. I was a poet in church. I was literally reading the Word of God every Sunday and just echoing Psalms 23, Psalms 91 every Sunday with the worship team. Somebody in the crowd said, "I can use your voice for voiceover." And then that's how I learned about voiceovers. That's how I got into radio, by compiling news for another radio presenter. And I didn't limit myself, even though
Wow.
I knew some of it, but I didn't know all of it. And there's YouTube, there's Google, there's been people before me. And it's never your responsibility to reinvent that solution, you know. And I think the strain of getting it right, you need to just understand that it's in the starting. That's when you understand the getting. That's when the knowledge comes,
Yeah.
when you start, when you act, when you continue. When you learn how to do voiceovers. When you learn projection.
Mm,
I mean, I do voiceovers
yeah.
for a French client, so it's literally just French, right? I do not speak French, but there is Google, and Google translates certain words that I need to learn how to say those words. you know. So I think the limiting of yourself, especially in creative, because our capacity to create comes
Yeah.
easy, but our articulation of that is a craft. For example,
Yeah.
Auntie Marianne does acting. The very script she needs to articulate into a whole paradigm so someone can see it.
Mm.
That is the craft. But our responsibility is understanding what we want to project and where we want to be projected.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's really great. Yeah, Auntie Mariana.
Can I
Absolutely
actually just add
agree.
on to that? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Add
Yeah.
on,
You
Mary.
can.
Mary?
I wanted to say that if just to add on to what Nadine was saying, is I always use ABC. Always be curious. Always be
Yes.
curious. Whenever
Always be
you put in a new
curious.
position somewhere, be curious. Don't want to know more, like a little bit of, or just what it is you've been put there for. You know, try and
Yeah.
understand the entire company as a whole, from the person who runs it at the top to the bottom, and understand where you fit in. And then from there, you're able to know where you can move within the company or what other opportunities you can build from there. But if you
Yeah.
just sit in a position, wherever you are working, and you just box your mind to that's all I can do, this is all I'm capable of, or this is all I've been hired to do, you're not able to see other opportunities. So you need to understand, like for example, BFM. How does BFM run? You know, from the technical side to the adverts to if I were to manage the place, how would it be managed?
Mm.
Then you'd know your place in that company and you'd be able to add more value. So that's what I always say. Always be curious. Never approach a position thinking you know everything or that you can't learn more. And that's another excellent way of finding out different ways of increasing your portfolio. Yeah.
Wow. Auntie Mariana.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes. I I want to say, when Nadine was mentioning the French accent, darling, you need to perform in America. Please. They always get you wrong. Do you know, if you say, I beg your pardon, they say, what? And then you say, I beg your pardon. And they say, what? And then you say, oh, well, I'm sorry. And then they say, oh, you mean excuse me? They don't use all the phrases. And of course, the accent, it's got to be just strong.
Yeah.
Otherwise, darling, they don't understand what you're saying. Because, the money, it's a dime and a quarter. And if you say a quarter in America, they don't know what you're talking about. They think you're talking about someone courting a lady because they say quarter. So that is, I just thought I'd throw that in because you need to be flexible. I love that, what Nadine said about the flexibility. And then, of course,
Yeah.
diversify. Yes, spot on. And
Hmm.
you need to develop your craft. I said to someone the other day, it's a high school person who wants to be in shows and what do I do and where do I go? And I say, well, first of all, you have to develop your craft. If you're a singer, go for every singing lesson you can go. Be in the Sunday school choir. Be in the worship team, as Nadine said. Be the reading the scripture, do the dialogue, perfect, perfect your craft, you know, perfect it on every level, and do the Trinity exams if you can. If you can afford to study at a art school or a acting school or a singing academy, if you can go to university and get into the music department to study, do it. If you can't, go for private lessons, whatever you can afford, because not all parents can, send their kids to all these academies. But
Yeah.
do what you can and go to the auditions, go into the idols, the whatever. you need to do. Just do it all, because if you just sit back and say, I want to do it one day, and then you'll be 80 and you won't have done a thing. So
Yeah,
we need to
and I think
actually,
that's yeah, and I think Aunt Mariana, that's great advice, by the way, because I have seen. Obviously, I'm still a young guy, and I haven't done a lot in the arts, but I've seen a lot of people that want to do something and they want to be involved in it, and they start so narrow. Like if someone says I rap, and then they say no, I'm a rapper, right? I'm a rapper, and there's nothing wrong with being a rapper, but you have restricted yourself to just I'm a rapper, such that it might take you much longer to be able to get to where you want to be, than if you still have a bit of broadness in you to say this is still what I focus on. This is my main craft, but I can I can use all these other things to open more doors and opportunities for me, train and learn other things. Or even you find guys that play musical instruments, and he says, okay, I'm a drummer, and all they can do is to play a drum. But you realize that at times the best way for you to get into a band is maybe they just need someone who can play the guitar at that time. So if you, though you can be a drummer and that's your main craft, but find a way to develop in other, other things, so that all these other things can help you in opening doors for you. And that's great advice. And you know, what then would you say? I know you mentioned one institution. What institutions would you say a young person who wants to be in the arts, that there are institutions like this and that they should, look at going to or joining? I know you said, university or whatever, but what specific institutions do you know of, that's to both of you?
well, firstly, I would say at school level, that's the most important. Where you can actually join the school, if there is a drama training group, or a school choir, if you like to sing, if you're a singer, then just do it. Get your foot in the door. The younger, the better. The younger you are, the better. So if you can get into your school, whatever training they offer for music, for acting, whatever, and then later on, if you can afford it, I would find out in your town what your academies, your drama academies. We have several here in Port Elizabeth, and just find out who they are. They're all good in PE. We are very, very blessed in PE with our drama academies. And just go. Find out what it will cost if you can afford it. Look for a cheaper one. Look for a voice coach. Anything you can do, and at the same time, don't neglect the admin side, because as Nadine says, you can actually bank on being asked all these questions. Can you do this? Can you do this? Oh yeah, while you're in the show, can you perhaps just keep the register for us, kind of thing? And if you say no, I can't, then it's not a good reflection on you. So diversify, and not that you need to be a master of all those things, but at least do it, because there's a time like now with this COVID thing, like we can't go out and do anything, but lots of people are doing stuff online. And that's where I regret not being younger, because I never developed the technical skills. And so but luckily I've got a husband. He's amazing. He's not only a script writer, but he also helps me with the technical stuff to get online, to get on this amazing, StreamYard,
Yeah, yeah.
or the Zoom platforms. And I actually am doing it. I never thought I would. I'm able to do it just because I ask the right people for help if I can't do it. So don't be scared to ask. Ask questions,
Yeah.
knock on people's doors. As I said, get your foot in that door. If you have to push the door, push it, get your foot in, be a bit tough skinned. Don't be too sensitive in the performing arts because you always hurt, Nadine, right? There's always hurt happening. Yeah, she's got a thumbs up there.
And here's a quick question, just quickly. Any of you can jump in for it. How do you balance the time to perform and family? With late nights, with tours, with going away, worse if you're married and things like that. Nadine, how do you balance the time?
I think you shouldn't segment art and craft into a 9 to 5 or compare it to a 9 to 5. You still have to prioritize. You still have to invest. You do still get a return on investment. I think people have this ideology that art is this fancy little thing where you sit in front of a board and you just draw pictures on a painting, or you're a poet and you smoke weed and you're always high. No, arts and craft is literally a job on its own, you know? And I think that's where we need to just break that bubble that craft and art, especially like, for example, I went for castings in Johannesburg. In the casting line, I met someone that had a different business, and I didn't know he was the director of Seven Delon. So I got a no for
Wow.
the casting, but I got a yes for being an extra on Seven Delon acting scene. So I think, especially what Auntie Marianne said, she said two important things. She said, always work on your craft. And working on your craft necessarily doesn't mean that get your degree and go to an art school. I never went to an art school. I never went to an art school. This is literally, I groomed my own arts and craft because I never slept on myself. But the only help I got was by asking, was by learning from being teachable with people that came before, as well as and getting up earlier. Castings, if castings are at 8 o'clock, there's a line, so you get a number. You have to be up by 5. You have to be there by 7. Auntie Marianne knows what I'm speaking about. Then on top of that, you're hungry. Then on top of that, you meet the irritable one that has earphones on in line and he's singing on top of his voice. And then you're sitting next to the person that just doesn't keep quiet because you must remember your lines. And then you get a no. Okay, then you get a no, and then you have to go out there and leave the casting place. I'm not fabricating this. This is really difficult. Um, and you go home and you're disappointed. You're despondent. Then you just get back up tomorrow. You get back up because you know the cause, you know the purpose, you know where you see yourself. Like, for example, I started in radio when I had my teddy bears on my bed. That's how I started in radio. I spoke to my teddy bears as if I was speaking to people. And there I had no degree, I had a desire, and I had a vision. So when I got the opportunity to create a news bulletin at 5 o'clock in the morning when I'm hungry and I'm not a morning person, I would do it. And because of that exposure, I learned about radio. I learned about what a voiceover artist is. I learned about what's a radio presenter supposed to do, the etiquette, the way you carry yourself, what can you say on air, what you can't say on air. And when the more I gave myself opportunities to explore, the more the doors opened because I never
Wow.
slept on my. Then someone asked me to do the news. Eventually, I did my first bulletin. It was the worst bulletin in the world. I stuttered. I was breathing on air wrong. The timing was bad. The tone was bad. But I did it. I did it badly, but I did it. And then I got corrected from there. I got taught from there. Then, because I was already in the studio, I learned how to be a radio presenter. And there's days, Stanford, where I never got paid. So people should not think about the idea when you start in radio. I was literally a volunteer. I'm even a volunteer at BFM. So the salary I get is from my business. I'm volunteering at BFM. But because of the volunteer, you have so much opportunities to meet people. You have so much people to be. If I go to commercial radio, I've trained myself for free by messing
Uh,
up in community radio, by falling short in community radio, by being saying, Nadine, the sound is distorted. Your levels. What's your levels, Nadine? What's your levels? You're saying that too loud. This is how you do a live read. This is how the client wants you to read this and project it. You know?
Yeah, wow,
So
that's
mess up because when you go to corporate, when you go to commercial radio stations, you're messing with their money. So don't mess with my
yeah,
money. You didn't know what you're doing. If you're messing with my
Yeah.
money, you have a contract and you're out of there. So I
wow,
already address myself as if I'm there where I want to be. So I carry
yeah,
myself already and I do things excellently, non-negotiably, as if I'm there already. So by the time I arrive there, I'm not shocked by the etiquette. I'm not shocked by the thought patterns. I'm not shocked by. I mean, on set, I was on Semigalon. This guy, he came from the bathroom, and his nose was bleeding. And I was like, "What's wrong with your nose?" And he just went to go snort cocaine to keep him sane. So that might have affected my whole perspective of this is wrong. But no, this is what keeps this actor sane. This is his right. And Uncle Marianne, I'm sure you heard about these stories. People smoking weed, people getting on crack and just keeping themselves safe because they're lying to them. So these are
and
really,
wow,
really
this
not nice,
this is
you know?
this is getting more and more interesting.
Yeah,
Aunt
I like it.
Mariana, three ways in which you manage the time. How do you manage the time?
I think by careful planning, you have to look, you have to have order. Don't be slapdash and haphazard. Have a plan and have a plan B and have a plan C because just for in case. And stick to your roster or your register. It's like a meeting. When you itemize a proper meeting, when you have a proper program for a meeting, and you follow, you back Mary, and you follow
Yeah,
properly,
I made it.
and you follow
I made it.
good, and you follow the program. You item for item for item. Then, if there is a mishap, you can handle it. But without a program, you actually don't know what's following or what should follow, and you are you become lost at sea. So have a program or a plan and have a plan B and try and stick to it, because your earlier question was how do people with families, and look, I started acting when my kids were small. I am now a granny and my oldest grandchildren are in their late 20s, so you can imagine how long ago that was. But I did amateur acting and I had a house to run. I had food to cook. I had dishes to wash. And still, one of my kids were even a baby and I had nappies to wash. But I went through the day, I planned, I stuck to my roster as much as I could, and I got to my rehearsals and I was able to be in shows. And that
Wow. So
is absolutely
so what
key.
I'm Yeah. So what I'm hearing is,
It's
the
a plan.
crucialness of planning, and have your business plan, have your diary. Treat it like your 8 to 5. Have a structure that you follow. And Mary, whilst you are away, Helio Antonio was asking, who was the and this then goes into the next segment I wanted to get into because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
And Antonio says, who was the most interesting artist you have ever interviewed, and who is your favorite singer, and local and international? And I want to ask
Yeah.
for all of you as well to answer that question. And when you answer that question, you also answer what's the best place, or what's your most memorable a part of your craft, and the best place where you have performed. So we can start with you, Mary.
Oh, okay. I think the most interesting artist that I interviewed was this gentleman called Benny Bushwacker. He's like he's almost like a Leon Schuster type of actor. That's how he performs. And he came to Bay FM and he co-hosted the show with me. And he's a stand-up comic, a playwright, but he had a big personality. He did the weather with like he made the show upside down, and it was so much fun because that's what people want to listen. They want to listen to. Oh, what's going to happen next? It's the show is so unexpected. So he was a very fun act to interview. I really really enjoyed it. Although I interviewed quite a few people that I found memorable as well. And what was the other question?
Your best
Um,
experience, your best experience,
oh my best.
and if it is a place that you have performed, but you don't do much of performances, right?
I used to earlier on, but now not anymore. But I do have something that I'm very proud of. I was in a band when I was in Boston. I was in a band with four other friends of mine, and we used to have a competition called Battle of the Bands back in the day. And so I remember we rehearsed for like 3 months or so that we can enter
So let
this
me,
competition.
sorry, Mary, when we have people like Auntie Mariana in the conversation, you are not allowed to say
Yes.
back in the day.
Yeah, we don't wanna point out certain things.
It doesn't matter. I
um
can relate.
You can
yeah.
relate.
I'm so glad I'm not alone. But
Yeah.
what I was gonna say is that we had rehearsed for like 3 or 4 months or so, thinking, we'll just see what happens. We'll see where this goes, and we worked really hard. We went to Battle of the Bands, we performed, and we actually ended up winning. And it was for the first time in my life, that moment, I felt like such a rock star because we won this Battle of the Bands and everyone around PE knew us. And then we came the next year and we defended our title. So I felt
Wow.
that was like
Wow.
my
Wow.
small town
That's great.
highlight.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
Nadine?
My favorite artist was Stone Boy. So our phone lines were not working. It was a mess. He thought that his interview was a Skype interview and it was a radio interview. And then he's like, you know what, let's do a WhatsApp interview. And I put my phone on the mic and he literally just nailed it. He made me feel so good as a radio presenter because he was so flexible. He actually did some of his lyrics on WhatsApp on the call and he did it a cappella. It was amazing. Stoneboy was just
Wow.
incredible. And he's like, you know what, just chill. We're going to wing this entire interview. I sent him the questions like a week before and he's like, I did not look through your questions. We're just going to wing a girl and we're just going to make this happen, you know? So he just kicked out the whole formula and he's like, this is what's going to happen. And he just made it fun. Stoneboy just made it fun,
Wow.
and it was a 2 hour delay because in Ghana there's 2 hour difference. But it was the most
No, I remember
amazing. But
that.
yeah, Jerry was actually there. She
Yeah.
was a witness of that chaos.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was just amazing. Dad was literally a flexible person who's never been out of shape. You make it happen because you told the listeners that it's gonna happen. You don't need to tell them
Wow.
how. They just gotta hear Stoneboy's voice on air. And the
Wow.
best moment for me was, so I had an English teacher that helped me get over I can't say R. So he took time to teach me how to get over my speech impediment before I left high school. And I was at a different radio station before that. And when I matriculated, I could manage to speak English on another level because of Mr. Field. I'll never forget his name.
Wow.
Mr. Field made me read Othello. He made me read Macbeth till it came out of my ears. He made me read about sonnets, about stanzas, and that's how I fell in love with poetry. And when I got a job in Johannesburg, my favorite icon and the person that impacted my life was Mr. Field. And before I left Johannesburg, I interviewed Mr. Field. And he said he
Wow.
would have never imagined being in an interview with a radio presenter, which was a grade 9 kid that was so insecure, that was so gullible, they were so naive. And here she's interviewing me as my most inspired. He was my most inspired icon. That was the title of that day. And I cried that day. I played 4 songs
Wow.
back to back because I could not speak. But Mr. Field is
Wow.
as important like Auntie Marion. We need them in
Mm,
the field. We need them in the arts.
mm,
We need that one person
definitely.
to say, Nadine, before you matriculate, I want you to have confidence at least in your speech. And I promise you, the day
Yeah.
I get married, Stanford, I'm gonna find Mr. Field, and Mr. Field has to be at my wedding. Yeah.
Wow,
So
wow. This is
Yeah.
this is this
Wow.
is
That is
really,
so
really great.
beautiful.
Wow. And Auntie Mariana, your best interview, and I know you have performed across the world. Your best performance, what venues do you say this is your best? I know your list is long.
Well, the thing is,
This
it's
is the
very
best
hard.
venue.
It's hard to choose the best person I interviewed, and it's also very difficult to remember them all because there's been many over the years.
Yeah.
But I once interviewed Mark Lottering. Now, I don't know if any of you remember Mark Lottering. He's a stand-up comedian. Yes, he's got this
Yes.
big curly, real colored hair, and
yeah.
a white spot in the front. And he is a
Mm.
funny, really funny guy. And he does all sorts of characters. And he says he's only funny for money. And he says it with a straight face. And of course, you laugh. And that's what he does. But uh, aside from that,
Yeah.
he is the most humble, loving guy. He hugs, he's warm, he's a person. He's a person, people,
Yeah.
a people person. Because I've interviewed others who are real divas. You understand? You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, and you get
Nadine,
those.
Mary, you
Yes,
find the
Auntie
divas,
Marion,
yeah? Yeah. We don't need them.
Yes.
Now, Mark Lottering is not like
No.
that. He's warm and loving, and he's just
Yeah.
on, he's just on equal ground with you when you're chatting to him. You will never say he's famous. And then the
Yeah,
best
and your best venue.
singer,
Yeah.
but the best singer, I want to say performer, nah, recently, but it wasn't recently. I think it was about 3 years ago. I interviewed our own Belinda David, and she does the Whitney Houston, and she's just come on what is it,
Yeah.
Idols, I think it was,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
The voice.
she is. Just go look her up
She
if you
was
don't
on
know her, Stanford. Belinda David.
yeah.
And she is stunning. She is also down to
She's
earth,
from
loving.
PE, hey?
She's from PE. She's our home
American
girl.
Got Talent.
She's she's been all over the world. She's performed Whitney Houston all over the world, and she's stunning. So just go look. Please find her on
Yeah.
Facebook,
Yeah.
Stanford, so you can see for yourself who I'm talking about here.
Yes. Yeah.
My best show that I've ever been in. It is also very hard to say because I've been in many pantomimes. I've been in straight plays, but about 10 years ago, we did Evita here in PE. It was
Oh.
phenomenal to do the musical Evita. And then just recently, we did Sound of Music here in PE, and I was in that show as well. I've been in many other shows. I can't say, that there was a favorite. When you're in a show, that show is it. That's your favorite show. When you're in the show, because you're working so hard, at it.
Yes.
But yeah, and then what was the other thing you wanted to
It was
ask
just a
me?
venue. A venue.
A venue. You know
Yes.
what? When I was in the United States, we performed to all sorts of audiences. We went to retirement centers, to schools, churches, many churches, but we also went to prisons. And that was the most interesting thing. Because when you go perform in a prison, we always drove around with this little suitcase, and in this little suitcase were all the props. So everything you may need for a play, because when you travel, you don't have sets and stuff like that. You just have a few props, and you ask for a chair, and you've got cups and
Yeah.
books and anything that will fit into the suitcase. Anyway, we had this little suitcase. We were not allowed to take it in. We were not allowed to take anything out of the suitcase to take into the prison. So all we had was they had for us a paper cup to borrow. We could borrow the paper cup, and we
Wow.
had to work with only that paper cup to the prisoners. But the prisoners, they were the most, that was a male prison as well. It was amazing. The whole
Yeah.
attitude, they were so attentive, to our performances. It was always an amazing experience. But this one I'm thinking of now was male.
Wow.
But we went to some female prisons as well. It was that was the most
That's great.
unusual for me, was to perform in a
Wow.
prison. Yes.
This is great, and when you're having fun, time just flies. The only advantage we have is we don't have to cross over for the news. So
That's
we
right.
because
Thank goodness. Thank goodness, man.
so so our flexibility, it is adjusted a bit. But as we wrap up, and thank you so much, ladies, for your insights and for sharing your experiences and what's going on. I will ask you to give a parting shot, and in your parting shot, your parting shot can be 60 seconds, but in your 60 seconds, what would you do to change the industry? And what would be your advice to other young Africans as part of your parting shot? We can start with you, Auntie. You can go ahead.
Me.
Yes, Auntie Mariana.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
Mariana, you
Well,
can start. Yeah, a
I
1 minute parting
would,
shot. Yeah.
yeah, immediately I would address audiences, the people out there. I would want to say to them, if you want to really, really, you want us, if your heart is for the performing arts, please support the performing arts. And that goes for different languages as well. If you are Sesotho, if you are isiXhosa, if you are Afrikaans or English, support your shows. Because if you don't support them, you will have no shows. Because the shows will not be able to be performed. And artists, I want to say to performing artists, please support other people's shows because you are in the same boat. you
Wow.
you need spectators. Be a good
Wow.
spectator. I can't tell you
Yeah.
how many shows I see a year, too many to remember. I have not even missed Grahamstown Festival this year. I've checked it online, and just check out the shows online now. I mean, there's now the National, I think it's National Theatre that's on every week from Sunday to Wednesday to Thursday. So stuff like that, look for it. Look for it now where it's at, online. And when we go back
Yeah.
to normal, then go look for them where they are. Support the performing arts. That's my
Yeah,
parting
that's.
shot.
Thank you so much. Yes, Mary.
Yeah. I would like to see more art that is relatable for people, you know, with the African experience, I would say. I would like to see more stories that
Yes,
where I can see myself in those stories, especially women. I feel like there's not a lot of stories that women can relate to, that are more realistic than they are like traditional in a sense. So I would love to see more of that. So I would put more money into writers, into creators who can create more of those stories. And then what I would say to young people or to women who want to get into the arts, educate yourself. Knowledge is the best commodity. Invest in yourself. So if you have an opportunity to study, go study whatever it is you want to study, acquire that knowledge. And once again, ABC, always be curious. Always be curious.
Right.
So that's me.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Nadine.
From my side, I want to say that potential is only good enough when you tap into it. You can have the potential to be an amazing actor. You can have the potential to have this amazing voice, but actually tapping into your own potential, that's the first investment. Secondly, add to your craft because a skill is given, a gift is given, but a skill is enhanced. That's your responsibility. Thirdly,
Wow.
nothing will be handed to you. You break that door. If there's no door, you create a door. If there's no door, you climb the stairs. If you don't climb the stairs, you find an elevator. If you don't
You
find an
break the
elevator,
window.
you go to a mall, you mold your door, you create your door, you find that door because there is room. This thing of there's no room
Wow.
for me
Yeah.
is literally a fantasy.
Yeah.
Arts and craft is a skill that has place and room. You just gotta align that room with your craft and your skill. The best advice I got from my brother, he said, Nadine, don't sleep on yourself. And that changed my coordinates. So don't sleep on yourself when you have the time, when you have the
Yeah.
resources. And if you mess up and if you
Yeah.
fall, fall forward. Fall forward. Do not fall back. Fall forward
Mm.
and walk, crawl,
Get
run, fly. I don't know, come on someone's back, but just do it and get there. Thirdly, and the last one that I have, a flexible person is never, ever bent out of shape, man. Never bent out of
Wow.
shape.
Wow. This is
yes,
great. And
girl.
this is awesome. And I must say, ladies, we have just completed our 67 minutes for Madiba. On such an awesome day, we've gone for 67 minutes, 1 hour, 7 minutes. And, we have done our
Wow.
part. And it's great. It's just that when it's crafted that way, that it's 67 minutes, but it should be part of our
Mm.
being all the time. And many
Very
have
nice.
benefited from this. Many have, enjoyed, the great insights, and there's a lot of engagements. We'll receive feedback. Thank you so, so much for taking your time. Thank you so much for joining. And, let's keep contributing to the growth of Africa. Let's keep contributing to Africa becoming that which we desire. No one is going to do it for us. We are the ones who are going to do it. Thank you so much. This is